Without Form and Void by Chris Parlett. Chapter 2, Blue-Green Rock. It was a bottle of that Thai whiskey from the Asian place over the road which got me to thinking that the term evolved primate needs stress on the second word rather than the first, although admittedly it'd take a whole lot more than that before people started behaving more like we're merely the current state, not the culmination, of a naturally abominable selection process. Human beings crashed the party relatively late as far as the sun god's first 4.5 billion years are concerned. Just imagine what manner of strange faces the parent of this rock will warm over the remaining billion and change. In all probability, they're unlikely to bear much resemblance to us at all, seeing as how the smart money's on the human primate not seeing out the current century in any state more capable than withered raves chewing on the flesh of the dead. Any and all remaining evidence of humanity or its achievements neither incinerated nor obliterated in the final revenge attacks is fated to be blasted from the face of the earth by a tempest of literally biblical proportions, ergo entirely man-made. Following this latest mass extinction, I do wonder how many more times the sun god will set on failed intelligences which, having developed the wherewithal to set foot on other planets, settle instead on annihilation due to a belligerent patriarchy's obsession with dick measuring contests. 1 billion years is an unimaginably long time, but that's about what you need to whittle down the contenders. How many highly evolved organisms do you suppose would launch into orbit with a wary eye on their co-pilot's bulge and a comforting hand on their own? Male octopuses, while hardly my area, boast penises the likes of which a mere ape can but only dream, a fully functioning arm, long enough in some species to enable copulation with the larger female without the risk of venturing inside her den, and detachable for others in the eventuality she'd prefer a meal to a mate. It's impossible not to admire the suitor's fortitude, but while they're clearly smart creatures, it just feels like it'd be a long climb up and away from that feminine propensity for strangling and consuming potential mates. Perhaps the solution to this vicious cycle of dick-based mutually assured destruction lies with the evolution of a matriarchal species. Meerkats, elephants, lions or hyenas? A lot hinges on how much of Africa is underwater, so let's hope there are still some killer whales left in the eventuality the chimpanzees don't manage to get their shit together with that ark. In 1.2 billion years, the yellow dwarf sun god will have grown so bright that the Earth's oceans and seas will be evaporating away. 1 billion years or so later, and life as we know it could no longer survive on Earth. The best hope for the new Earthlings would be the same as ours now, to have colonised Mars long before shit starts happening, which makes the really bad shit going on now pale by comparison. These new Martians would not be the same beings who'd watched the swollen red giant sun god engulf first one rock, then the second, then bear down on the third, our dead Earth. Yet despite this once-in-a-species lifetime spectacle, 12 billion years in the making, there'd be more than a few sympathetic souls thinking that if anything had evolved on Earth during those billions of years in the shadow of the sun god, anything at all, then the decent thing would be to pray that it was sufficiently advanced to have prepared themselves. Not that praying ever achieved anything, but even so, the Martians would need to give due care and consideration to the ramifications of an unknown number of displaced Earthlings of which nothing was known, except for the fact that were forged in the flames of several billion years of hell on Earth and shouldn't rightly exist under the gaze of any sane god. Whatever manner of creature could have survived and flourished on that scorched rock, one thing would be abundantly clear to the Martians, that a matriarchal society descended from the meerkats of Earth, flourishing in peace and prosperity since records began, had been all well and good, right up until the first creatures of dead Earth descended from the heavens and craft dark as spectres. Having nothing with which to defend themselves except the claws they get blunt for play fighting, the closest thing to a deterrent in the Martians' arsenal would be that cute wee quizzical head tilt of theirs, and being of the sort ordinarily given to reflection, the tears those unfortunate wretches shed for their fellows would flow as freely as their blood. They would weep for Mars, and they would weep for Earth, and they would weep for a cruelty none had encountered their entire lives. Neither side would share a common tongue, and whether the displaced Earthlings were telepathic or if they were mute, it'd be all the same to the Martians. The tune of the colonization of brutal and methodical slaughter played without a bum note or even a pause for mercy, so certainly no thoughts spared for the banal, lovelorn concepts of this here bone-idle predecessor of theirs, nor her myriad simian clones twisted half-mad by predictable concerns back across the eons between our ages. But the planet Mars would be red once more.